Beginning, the War of Silence. The war between humans and the Vireth Empire had lasted 13 years. It wasn't a war of planets, it was a war of existence. Humanity had clawed its way into the stars, only to find a species older, faster, and infinitely more ruthless waiting for them. The Vireth didn't take prisoners, they didn't even speak to humans. To them, Earth's kind were insects that had stumbled too far into the light. Private Daniel Hurst had seen enough death to fill 10 lifetimes. His squad had been stationed on Varine 4, a dying colony world now reduced to craters and ash. He'd lost his captain, his medic, and his best friend in the last orbital strike. When command finally called retreat, only a handful of survivors remained, and Daniel wasn't even sure he wanted to leave. But fate, as it always did, had other plans. The skies over Varine 4 burned green that night, the eerie glow of a Vireth cruiser descending, its hull like molten glass. Daniel had taken cover in the ruins of an observatory, clutching his rifle and listening to the distant thunder of alien engines. His comms were dead. His oxygen levels were dropping. He thought he'd die there. Then, through the smoke and the rain, he saw something falling, a small pod, trailing white fire, crashing into the shattered courtyard below. It hissed, split open, and from within came a sound Daniel had never expected to hear in a war zone. A baby's cry. Middle, the cry that changed everything. Daniel approached cautiously, weapon raised. The pod was not human, it was smooth, crystalline, and pulsing with light. The small being inside was wrapped in silver fabric, its tiny fists glowing faintly blue beneath translucent skin. It was unmistakably Vireth, though smaller, more fragile, and infinitely more innocent. The baby's eyes, two shimmering pools of gold, blinked up at him, and for the first time in years, Daniel's hands trembled. He knelt. "Hey there, it's okay," he whispered, even though he knew the child couldn't understand him. But when the infant reached out, its tiny hand glowing brighter, Daniel felt something warm pulse through his palm. A sensation that wasn't pain, but connection. A single flash of thought entered his mind, not in words but in feeling: help. Please. He froze. Did you just? Before he could finish, the ground quaked. Vireth soldiers, tall and armored like obsidian titans, descended through the smoke. Daniel ducked behind a broken pillar, the baby still crying softly. He could see their weapons' energy lances designed to vaporize anything organic. He had seconds to choose: leave the infant and survive, or protect it and die. He didn't even hesitate. He scooped the child up, wrapped it against his chest, and sprinted into the rain-soaked ruins. Bolts of green plasma cut through the darkness, searing stone and air alike. He dove into an underground passage, a maintenance shaft that led to the observatory's sublevel, clutching the baby close as explosions echoed above. In the flickering emergency light, Daniel saw the baby's face again. It wasn't crying anymore. Instead, it watched him, studying, almost understanding. Then it did something that would change the course of the galaxy. It spoke, not aloud but in his mind. "You're not like the others." Daniel froze. He wasn't sure if he was hallucinating or if something far stranger was happening. "You can talk," he whispered. A faint pulse in his skull replied, "No. I feel. You feel too. Fear. But not hate." Daniel exhaled shakily. "I don't hate you. I just want this war to end." The baby tilted its head. "Then you are the one mother dreamed of." Before he could ask what that meant, a distant explosion shook the tunnel, followed by the sound of approaching footsteps. The mother of stars. Daniel reached an access hatch that opened into the ravine beyond the observatory. The Vireth soldiers were searching above. His only chance was the wreckage field near the river. He could use the shadows to stay hidden. But as he prepared to climb out, a blinding light swept over the ravine. Hovering above, surrounded by a halo of golden energy, was a figure unlike any Daniel had ever seen. She wasn't armored, not in the conventional sense. Her attire shimmered like liquid crystal, and her presence made the air itself hum. Her eyes glowed the same deep gold as the infant's. The Alien Empress. Daniel froze. His rifle slipped from his grip. She landed softly, her gaze locked on him. Human, she spoke, and for the first time, Daniel heard a Vireth voice outside of battle. It was melodic, resonant, and filled with something he hadn't expected. Desperation. "You have my daughter," she said. Daniel's breath caught. She crash-landed. "I didn't know." "I know." The Empress extended a hand. "Give her to me." The baby stirred, reaching toward her mother, but her golden gaze shifted back to Daniel. Then, to everyone's shock, she began to cry again. The light in her small body flickered, dimming. The Empress looked alarmed. "What did you do?" "Nothing," Daniel shouted, stepping back. "She was fine until..." He stopped. The child's skin was losing color, her light dimming like a fading star. Daniel didn't think, he just acted. He pressed his hand against her chest, the same way he'd seen medics perform CPR on human infants. But as he did, the warmth from before returned, a surge of life, of connection. The baby's heartbeat glowed against his palm. When the Empress saw this, her expression changed, from anger to disbelief. "She chose you," she whispered. The soldiers behind her stiffened. "Your Majesty, that cannot be allowed." "Silence," she commanded. The Empress looked at Daniel again, her voice softer now. "Do you know what this means, human? My daughter's symbiolite has bonded to your life force. She has never done that. Not even with our kind." Daniel swallowed. "So, if she's connected to me, then her fate," the Empress said, "is now tied to yours. The journey through the stars." Against all reason, Daniel found himself brought aboard the Vireth royal cruiser, not as a prisoner, but as something else, a guardian of sorts. The corridors of the alien vessel pulsed with faint bioluminescence. Every surface seemed alive, breathing in rhythm with the ship's core. The Empress, whose name he learned was Sarati, rarely spoke, but her daughter, whom she called Alarira, would not sleep unless Daniel was near. Word spread quickly across the Vireth fleet. The infant heir had bonded with a human. Some called it blasphemy. Others, prophecy. Days turned into weeks. Daniel learned fragments of their language, their rituals, and even their grief. He saw how the Vireth worshipped stars as living beings, each supernova a soul reborn. One night, as the ship drifted in the void beyond the Orion Rift, Sarati approached him on the observation deck. "Do you know why we warred with your people?" she asked quietly. Daniel shook his head. "Because we feared you," she said. "Your kind adapts faster than any race we've known. You do not yield to despair even when you should. You climb, you build, you return from ashes. That makes you dangerous." Daniel looked out at the stars. "And you? You could have destroyed us completely. Why didn't you?" Sarati smiled faintly. "Because my daughter dreamed of a human long before she was born. She spoke of a man who would hold the light of two worlds in his hands." Daniel blinked. "You're telling me your infant prophesied me?"